Do you ever wonder how you should be investing your money, what accounts to be using, and how to allocate excess cash? In this episode, I walk through exactly what I've done from being a brand new second lieutenant out of the Air Force Academy to being a high-income dual military household to now being a full-time veteran business owner. I'll walk you through exactly the accounts I've used, how I've allocated my excess cash, and how that's given me the foundation to look at investing differently going forward in the future. So if you're a high-income household, especially if you have a business, a side business, and you're looking for a framework with which to allocate your money, then stick around because this episode is for you. Welcome to the Bluff Finance Podcast. I'm Eric Baskin, an Air Force Academy graduate, turned veteran entrepreneur, and certified financial planner. I help military families and veteran business owners achieve financial freedom. Join us weekly as we explore financial tips for the military community and inspiring interviews from successful veteran business owners. Today, I want to talk to you about how I've invested my money as a financial planner from second lieutenant, fresh out of college, all the way to being full-on veteran business owner. I'll walk you through kind of the different accounts I've used and how I'm thinking about money now and where I'm allocating it, and then where I think money will go in the future, as well as what our goals were, my wife and I's, at the time, not only when we just first started investing to now to kind of where they will be going in the future, to kind of show you how I'm thinking of allocating money in the accounts that I'm using and how that aligns with our goals. So hopefully this gives you an idea of how to think about allocating your funds and the stage of life that you're in. And I'll give you a little sneak peek inside of how we were able to go pretty hard early on to build up a sizable retirement portfolio that gives us so much optionality now and later on in life. So let's dig into the details. Okay, so as second lieutenants, I was 24, my wife was 22. Here's the accounts we were investing in right off the bat. So Roth IRAs, that's an easy one. I've been doing that for a long time, but that was something we were maxing, no doubt, right away. We also started maxing our Roth TSPs very early on, even as second lieutenants. So we were able to have enough liquidity coming from the Air Force Academy, as well as the Career Starter Loan, to where we felt comfortable enough to max out our Roth TSPs, and then also did some additional investing into a taxable brokerage account as we got later on into first lieutenant. So real basic. Our goals obviously at this point was to just build out our retirement portfolio. Just for fun, I would always go and get on my phone and do compound interest calculators. I was obsessed with that very early on before I became a real financial planner. So I've always just been fascinated by the ability to put away consistent amounts of money really early on in your life and letting that compound over many, many decades, and the power that that has and the optionality that that would give me later on in life. So at this point, there wasn't much thought for us other than if we're spending less than we make, we might as well contribute to these retirement accounts and start building our financial future. So it's pretty simple. Early on, first lieutenant, 24, 25, 26 years old, just maxing out those retirement accounts if we can, and then getting into that taxable brokerage account. And I'll say these are all invested into index funds and ETFs. These are not invested in bonds. They weren't invested into self-directed IRAs like in real estate. We don't own any rental real estate. We didn't back then, never have. That doesn't mean we never will, but very simple, a very simple approach here, but effective, consistent, disciplined investment. I'll also say that I'm not logging into all of these accounts. I was not logging into all these accounts on a regular basis to make changes and try to time the markets or pick specific investments over certain periods of time. It was very much, let's make sure we hit our contribution amount and then let's move on. It was not, let's go fiddle with it. Let's go time the markets. So really consistent, disciplined investment in these accounts for these number of years. Okay, let's move on now to veteran business owner, 30 years old. So that's me now. What kind of things are we focusing on? So the accounts that we're saving into now include quite a bit into a high yield savings account, backdoor Roth IRAs, Roth TSP, not quite as much, less. We're not even maxing my wife's Roth TSP because she's still active. We're not even maxing it. And then taxable brokerage account is kind of the spillover. But really, honestly, at this point, the focus for me as a business owner is this high yield savings account. We're certainly doing our part here. We're getting the match in the Roth TSP. We're doing the backdoor Roth IRAs, but building liquidity and high yield savings account is super, super, super important for me right now at this stage in life. And here's why. Our goals back 6 years ago when we just started working were, let's build a retirement portfolio. Let's just build our financial future. We're not thinking about, all the things that we need to do in between now and retirement. But now that we have grown up a little bit, we have a little bit more complexity in our lives. We've got lots of goals that are coming up here. So, just the goal of liquidity, something that I wasn't thinking of, something I certainly think of as a business owner now, having significant liquidity to withstand disruptions to business, whatever it may be. Make sure I don't have to take every single client that comes through the door. I can really wait for those best fit clients. Myself as a business owner, liquidity is super, super important. Buying a new house. So we bought a house in our house right now, but we're going to be moving soon, buying another house. So that's certainly important to be able to put a sizable down payment down. Having kids, that's going to be coming up. That's going to cost more money. Building a business, right? So kind of talked about that. That ties in with the liquidity. Moving. So we have a move coming up here soon. So making sure we have some reserves for that. We always know when you buy a new house, you have to, buy new furniture. You got to do things to the house. Maybe you want to paint it. Maybe you want to put new light fixtures in, whatever it is. Work optionality for my wife. So making sure, hey, we can get the business to a point where she can kind of pick and choose what she does. That's super important to me and kind of the reason why I started the business. And then obviously retirement, always a goal. So making sure at some point we're financially free, many years down the road, we're still on track for that. So you can see, as a first or a second lieutenant, 24 years old, really just thinking about retirement. How do we get that compounding? How do we get that going? But pretty simple approach. Now it's a little bit more complex and we got to pick, all right, how much is going to high yield savings account? Are we still getting our TSP match, doing the backdoor Roth IRAs? What's going to taxable brokerage account? How much liquidity do we need? And then when do we start spilling over into saving for retirement or investing for just general wealth building? So lots more going on here. At this age with a business and move and potential kids and new house, liquidity is a lot more important at this age. So let's go now to the future, where I think we're going. So accounts that we'll probably be saving for in the future and saving into are going to be backdoor Roth IRAs, a solo 401k, a taxable brokerage account, and high yield savings account. So again, it's going to be, once we have that liquidity buffer, that's going to allow us to have some work flexibility. We don't have to take everyone who comes through the door into the business. We get to be super intentional with, how we grow and why we grow. We don't need that next client. We don't need that next dollar. We have a lot of liquidity and flexibility in our lives. Then we can start going towards, okay, how do we save, continue to build wealth, resilient wealth, I like to call it. So let's build that Roth bucket. Let's build that traditional bucket. Let's build that taxable brokerage account bucket to where we've got a lot of optionality and flexibility in our retirement income someday, as well as we have the option to buy a mountain cabin. That would be something I'd love to do. Maybe turn it into an Airbnb. We have options to give generously. So I did an episode on donor advised funds. If we can invest now in a taxable brokerage account, well, maybe 10 years from now, securities can appreciate and be really good candidates to give to a donor advised fund and save on tax and be intentional about giving to charities and causes that we care about. Set our kids up for success. So we don't have kids yet, but that becomes something that's going to be certainly important. And, what accounts do we want to do? Do we want to utilize to make sure our kids are set up for success, whether that's 529, saving for their college, maybe starting a Roth IRA when they start to get of age and they have some earned income. So those are the things we start to think about. But again, what I'll say here throughout this whole, all of this, it's fairly simple in my approach. What you don't see here is you don't see rental real estate. It isn't for me. That doesn't mean it's not great for you. Doesn't mean it's not a great situation for somebody else. It isn't my thing personally. What you also won't see here amongst all of this is timing the market, picking individual stocks. I don't hold any cryptocurrency. It is diversified portfolios of ETFs and index funds that are invested for a really, really long period of time. I don't log in and check them every day. If you ask me how the market's doing, some days I wouldn't know if I haven't looked at anything. So I'm so intensely focused on the long term that I really don't care about the day-to-day, what happens in these accounts. If I'm allocating things properly to these accounts that are in line with my goals, now and in the future, I know that I'm doing the right things and all my accounts are going to take care of this for me because they are proper from a tax perspective. They're proper from a diversification perspective. So let's zoom out now and kind of think about wealth building and compounding and the optionality it gives us. So if I'm maxing out my IRAs, TSPs, I'm maxing out all of that at a very young age, what does that do to my wealth? If time is on the x-axis and wealth is on the y-axis, well, it's going to grow my wealth pretty quickly. Like it's going to compound. And then when I get to these ages where I have kids, new house, vacations, we want to buy a mountain cabin, like I have all these things, I've already started this clock of compounding to where if I have a certain ceiling that I have to hit, a certain number to retire, I'm going to hit that a lot quicker if I've started the compounding earlier. So let's imagine instead of putting away, 50, 60 grand a year when I'm 24, instead of that, let's imagine we just did the TSP match. Well, our line's going to look a lot different if we're not maxing out the IRAs, we're not maxing our TSP. If we're just going slowly, it's going to look a lot different. And when we're in our 30s and 40s and we want to buy that mountain property, we want to be generous, we want to set our kids up for 529s, whatever it may be, we're going to have so much less optionality because we have to keep saving to hit that retirement goal. But due to the power of compound interest and the power of markets, if you get going early on and are super intentional about where you're putting your dollars, how much you're spending, how much you're saving, you're going to set the wheels of the bus in motion to hit that retirement goal so much quicker than somebody who's waiting and doing it slowly. And now in their 30s, 40s, and 50s, they're having to catch up on retirement saving. So just wanted to give you a macroeconomic view of kind of how our path has been and how we've really gotten to a point where we could not touch these retirement savings that we have socked away for 6 years, and we would be fine in retirement. I've done the math forwards and backwards. So that doesn't mean we're never going to save another dollar for retirement. In fact, we are. But we are able to ease off the gas pedal and have more liquidity for starting my dream business, for saving for a down payment on a house, for having kids, for buying the mountain property someday, for being generous, going on vacation. So I hope this was a helpful macroeconomic view of kind of how we've gotten from brand new second lieutenants out of the Air Force Academy, just starting our saving and investing journey, to now being in a position where we can be super strategic and smart with our wealth and how we're spreading it about these accounts to continue to grow our wealth in ways that align with our goals. Two more last points I want to make that encompass this whole thing throughout. One, it's very simple. We haven't taken a very complex approach other than starting a business. I'll admit that's a little complex, but it's simple. We haven't bought NFTs. We haven't bought crypto. We don't have leverage here, leverage there. We don't have 20 rental properties. It's very, very simple, our approach. So you can build wealth in simple ways. Number two, it's long-term focused. The amount of times I've made changes to my investment portfolios across these last 6 years or so, very, very few, very small amounts of changes that have been made. So it's long-term in nature. I'm not obsessive over checking the values of these accounts. I do look at them once in a while. I track them. I benchmark them against our net worth and how it's growing over time. But I'm not obsessive of growing wealth in any way, shape, or form. I'm looking at the long term, knowing that we're doing the right things, we have money in the right accounts and the right investments, and ultimately we're going to reach our goals. That's the only thing that matters. Dying with the most money or reaching the most amount of wealth, the highest amount of wealth, is not what matters. It's reaching our goals, being intentional with our money, and for us, spending time with friends and family. So I hope that this was helpful. I hope it was helpful, little case study for you to get a view into how I've viewed money and how I've managed money over my working career so far, from brand new second lieutenant to business owner. If you have any questions, let me know, and we will see you next time. Thanks. Thank you for joining us today. Do you want the exact financial planning framework that I use with clients? Go visit baskinfp.com where you can grab a free download of the ultimate military and veteran financial checklist to give you the bluff on what you need to be doing to manage your finances. We'll be back next week with some more content to help you on your journey to financial freedom. See you then. This is a friendly reminder that the Bluff Finance Podcast is general and educational in nature and does not constitute tax, investment, legal, or financial advice with respect to any particular individual or taxpayer. Please consult with your own tax, legal, financial, and other advisors regarding your own unique situation.